Through the tinted window of his Bentley, Diego Valente watched a barefoot girl in rags crouch beside his daughter on the sidewalk, tracing equations in the dirt, and for the first time in 5 years, he saw his child smile. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more thrilling stories, turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update, and sit back, relax, and enjoy this captivating tale. The São Paulo morning broke over Avenida Paulista like shattered glass, brilliant, sharp, and unforgiving. Diego Valente's Bentley Continental glided through the financial district's arteries, a sleek predator among lesser machines, its black paint reflecting the city's steel and glass towers in warped, liquid shapes. Inside, the air conditioning hummed at precisely 21 degrees Celsius, a carefully controlled environment that matched the temperature of Diego's expression. He didn't look at the city anymore. Not really. Somewhere between his third billion and his fourth, São Paulo had transformed from a place into a series of transactions. Buildings he owned, streets his developments had reshaped, people who existed in relation to his empire. At 42, Diego Valente had become what Forbes called South America's most ruthless real estate titan, a title he wore like armor. His driver, Carlos, knew better than to speak during morning commutes. The silence was broken only by the soft leather creaking as Diego shifted, scrolling through acquisition reports on his tablet. Another historic neighborhood marked for demolition. Another 100 families to relocate. The numbers were clean, efficient, stripped of the mess of human sentiment. Senhor Valente, Carlos's voice cut through carefully, we're approaching the school. Diego's jaw tightened. The school. Where his daughter Isabella spent her days behind walls that cost more per year than most Brazilians earned in a lifetime. Where she sat silent in classrooms full of chatter. Where she came home with perfect grades and empty eyes. The Bentley rolled to a stop outside Academia Santissima, a pristine private institution where São Paulo's elite warehoused their children. Through the window, Diego could see the other parents. Women in Chanel, men checking Rolexes, everyone performing the theater of concerned parenthood while their assistants did the actual work of raising children. She's not coming out, Carlos observed quietly. Diego exhaled through his nose. She never does on time. It had been 5 years since the accident. 5 years since a drunk driver had turned a family dinner into a funeral, since Maria's laugh had been silenced forever, since Isabella had watched her mother die in the twisted metal of their Mercedes. The girl who emerged from the hospital 3 months later was a ghost wearing his daughter's face, silent, obedient, unreachable. The therapists had words for it. Selective mutism. Traumatic withdrawal. Complex grief. Diego had words for it too, his failure. He could buy anything, build anything, destroy anything, except repair the one thing that mattered. I'll go in, Diego said, reaching for the door handle. Senhor, perhaps. I'll go in. The heat hit him like a physical force as he stepped onto the sidewalk. November in São Paulo meant the wet season was beginning, the air thick enough to chew. Diego's Tom Ford suit absorbed the humidity instantly, but he barely noticed. He was already scanning the school's entrance, looking for Isabella's small form among the streaming children. He found her by the side entrance, apart from the others. Always apart. Isabella sat on a stone bench, her school uniform pristine, her dark hair pulled back in the tight braid her nanny insisted upon. 9 years old and she carried herself like a miniature adult, shoulders straight, hands folded in her lap, face carefully blank. A leather satchel sat beside her, monogrammed with her initials in gold thread. Everything about her screamed privilege, wealth, careful curation. Everything except her eyes. Her eyes were just gone. Bella, Diego said, crouching before her. He'd stopped calling her Isabella after the accident. Maria had called her Bella, and he clung to the nickname like a prayer. Ready to go. She nodded. No smile. No words. Just that small, mechanical nod. Diego's chest constricted the way it always did. He wanted to shake her, to demand she yell at him, blame him, something. The silence was killing him slower than any bullet could. Did you have a good day? He tried. Another nod. Learn anything interesting? This time, she just looked at him. Those dark eyes, Maria's eyes, flat and distant as a winter lake. Diego stood, defeat settling into his bones like old architecture. Let's go home. He took her hand. It lay in his palm like a dead bird, neither squeezing nor pulling away. They walked toward the Bentley together, a billionaire and his broken daughter, surrounded by the noise of other children's laughter. Carlos had already opened the rear door. Diego was helping Isabella inside when movement caught his periphery, a flash of color wrong for this neighborhood, too bright and too ragged. A girl was moving through the crowd of parents and children, weaving between Mercedes and BMWs like a fish in a current. She couldn't have been more than 11, maybe 12, but the street had aged her eyes. Her clothes were a patchwork catastrophe, a faded yellow dress that might have been pretty a dozen owners ago, held together with mismatched threads and hope. Her feet were bare, the soles dark with the city's grime. Her hair, a wild tangle of black curls, was held back with a piece of twine. She carried a battered cardboard box under one arm, and she was working the crowd with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned that survival was a numbers game. A small, dirt-streaked hand would extend, a rehearsed phrase would tumble out, "Poor favor, senhora, anything helps," and she'd move on before disgust or pity could fully form on the faces above her. Diego had seen 1,000 street children. Sao Paulo bred them like mosquitoes in standing water. He'd written checks to charities, funded shelters, done his philanthropic duty at tax time. He'd perfected the art of looking through them, seeing past them, around them. But this girl stopped him cold. She'd paused in front of a group of children from Isabella's class, girls in pressed uniforms, their parents distracted with phones and conversations. The homeless girl was showing them something from her box, and to Diego's surprise, the children weren't running. They were listening. "What is she doing?" Diego murmured. Carlos followed his gaze. "Probably selling something, senhor. Should I call security?" "No. Wait." Diego watched as the girl pulled something from her box. It looked like stones, or shells, arranged in a pattern on the sidewalk. She was talking, gesturing, and the children were leaning in. One of the mothers noticed and immediately pulled her daughter away, shooting the girl a look of pure venom. But 2 other children remained, transfixed. "Papa." Isabella's voice, her actual voice, unused for so long it came out rough as rust, made Diego's heart stop. He spun. His daughter was half out of the Bentley, staring at the homeless girl with something Diego hadn't seen in 5 years. Interest. Bella. But Isabella wasn't listening. She was already moving, slipping past him with surprising speed, drawn toward the homeless girl like iron to a magnet. Isabella. Diego lunged after her, his mind flooding with every nightmare, kidnapping, disease, danger. But his daughter was already there, standing at the edge of the small circle, her perfect shoes inches from the girl's bare feet. The homeless girl looked up, and Diego saw her face for the first time. Thin, sharp-featured, with eyes too old and too knowing. Indigenous features mixed with European, a face that told the story of Brazil's complicated bloodlines. But it was her expression that stopped him, not the practiced beggar's mask, but genuine surprise, followed by a quick, assessing intelligence. "Oi," the girl said to Isabella, her voice carrying the accent of the favelas. "You want to see?" Isabella just stared. The girl didn't seem bothered. She gestured to her arrangement of stones. "It's mathematics. See? Fibonacci sequence. Each number is the sum of the 2 before it. Like this, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Her dirty fingers moved the stones into a spiral pattern. "It's in everything. Flowers, shells, galaxies. The universe counts this way." Diego's breath caught. The girl was teaching. Right here on the sidewalk, in bare feet and rags, she was teaching mathematics to children who probably had private tutors. And Isabella, God, Isabella, was crouching down to look closer. What would you do if you saw your child finally show interest in something, or someone, unexpected? Would you pull them away for safety, or let the moment unfold? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear what you'd choose. Diego froze, caught between instinct and wonder. Every parental alarm was screaming. This girl could be sick, dangerous, part of some scheme. The rational part of his brain, the part that had built an empire, said to grab Isabella and leave. But his daughter was engaged. For the first time in 5 years, she looked alive. "Where did you learn this?" The question escaped Diego before he could stop it. The homeless girl glanced up, her assessment of him instantaneous and accurate. Rich man. Powerful. Potential threat or potential mark. Diego could see the calculations running behind those ancient eyes. "Books," she said simply, then returned her attention to Isabella. "You see the pattern? Want to try?" She held out a stone to Isabella. Diego's daughter hesitated, her hand hovering in the air between her world and this girl's world, between safety and possibility. Then Isabella took the stone. The girl smiled, not the practiced smile of a beggar, but something genuine, something that transformed her gaunt face into something almost beautiful. Smart. I can tell. You're really smart. What's your name? Isabella's mouth opened. No sound came out, but her lips formed the word, Bella. Bella, the girl repeated, like it was a gift. Pretty name. I'm Luz. It means light, but it's also kind of a joke because I mostly sleep in dark places. She laughed at her own gallows humor, then immediately sobered. Okay, so put the stone here. Diego stood there, useless and awestruck, as a homeless girl named Luz did what 100,000 reais worth of therapists couldn't do, made his daughter want to communicate. The moment shattered when a security guard from the school approached, hand already on his radio. Senhor Valente, is this girl bothering you? I'll remove her immediately. No, Diego said, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. She's not bothering anyone. The guard hesitated, confused. Parents didn't defend street rats. Luz was already gathering her stones, reading the situation with practiced survival instinct. She'd been thrown out of 1,000 places, and she knew the signs. But as she stood, Isabella's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. The homeless girl froze. Isabella was gripping her arm, her face desperate, pleading. Still no words, but the message was clear, don't go. Diego's world tilted on its axis. What's in the box? He heard himself ask. Luz looked at him warily. Books. Shells. Things I find. Show me. It was a command, the tone he used in boardrooms. But Luz wasn't intimidated. She held his gaze for a long moment, then slowly opened the box. Inside was a treasure trove of trash. Water-damaged textbooks salvaged from dumpsters. Notebooks filled with cramped handwriting. Broken calculators. Cracked shells arranged by size. A smartphone with a shattered screen, probably stolen or found, held together with tape. And everywhere, evidence of a hungry mind feeding itself on the scraps of a city that had discarded her. You taught yourself? Diego asked, his voice softer now. Library's free, Luz said with a shrug. Until they kick you out for smelling bad. Internet's free at McDonald's if you buy one coffee and make it last 4 hours. Education's free if you're smart enough to steal it. There was no self-pity in her voice, just statement of fact. Diego had met CEOs with less practical intelligence than this barefoot girl possessed. How old are you? 12. Maybe 13. My May wasn't big on birthdays. Where is she? Your mother. Something flickered across Luz's face. Pain, quickly shuttered. Gone. 3 years now. And your father? Never had one worth mentioning. Where do you sleep? The questions were pouring out now, and Diego didn't fully understand why. Luz was watching him with increasing suspicion, her body language shifting toward flight. Around, she said carefully. Look, Senhor, I wasn't causing trouble. I was just showing the kids some math. I'll go. No. Diego surprised himself again. Isabella, let her go for a moment, querida. His daughter reluctantly released Luz's wrist, but she didn't step back. Diego pulled out his wallet, Hermes leather, probably worth more than Luz had seen in a year. He extracted several bills, then paused. Money felt wrong. Insulting, even. Like trying to pay for what had just happened, trying to transact something that existed outside his usual economy. But what else did he have? He held out 500 reais. For the lesson. Luz stared at the money like it might bite her. That's too much for showing some stones. Take it. She did, but her expression was troubled. Why? Because my daughter spoke your name, Diego said quietly. And she hasn't spoken in 5 years. Understanding bloomed in Luz's eyes, followed by something that might have been compassion. She looked at Isabella with new attention, seeing past the expensive uniform to the broken girl underneath. Trauma? Luz asked bluntly. Diego nodded. Yeah, Luz said softly. I get that. For a moment, two people from opposite ends of the universe acknowledged each other's pain. Then Luz tucked the money into her dress and hefted her box. I should go. Thanks for not having me arrested. She turned to leave. Isabella made a sound, not a word, but a small, desperate noise that stopped all three of them cold. Diego looked at his daughter. Really looked. Her hands were clenched, her whole body vibrating with an emotion he couldn't name. She wanted something. Needed something. And she was trying so hard to ask for it. Luz, Diego said, the decision forming even as he spoke, where will you be tomorrow? The girl turned back, wary. Why? Because I'd like to hire you. Both Luz and Carlos made identical sounds of shock. Hire me? Luz repeated. For what? To teach my daughter mathematics. Silence. The morning chaos of Academia Santissima continued around them. Engines, voices, the percussion of wealth and routine. But in their small circle, everything had gone still. You want to hire a homeless girl, Luz said slowly, to teach your rich daughter math. You know that's insane, right? Completely, Diego agreed. But you made her interested in something. You made her try to communicate. So yes, I want to hire you. Name your price. Luz's laugh was sharp, disbelieving. I live in a drainage pipe near Praca di Acer, Senhor. I haven't had a real shower in 2 months. I steal food from trash cans. You don't want me near your daughter. But she wants you near her, Diego countered. Don't you, Bella? Isabella nodded so vigorously her braid swung. Luz looked between them, her street-smart cynicism warring with something that might have been hope. This is a joke, right? Or a trick? Rich people don't. My wife died 5 years ago, Diego interrupted, his voice raw. Car accident. Isabella was in the back seat. She watched it happen. Since that night, she hasn't spoken a word to anyone. Therapists, specialists, medications, nothing worked. Then you spent 5 minutes with her, and she tried to say your name. So no, Luz who lives in a drainage pipe, this is not a joke. This is desperation. The honesty hit like a hammer. Luz's defenses cracked, just slightly. I don't know how to be a teacher, she whispered. You were teaching when I saw you, Diego said. You're a natural. And whatever you're doing, it's working. For how long? As long as it takes. To do what? To help my daughter find her voice again. Luz looked at Isabella, who stared back with naked hope. Then the homeless girl did something that stunned Diego. She crouched down to Isabella's eye level, ignoring him entirely. Is this what you want? She asked Isabella seriously. Not what your papa wants. What you want. Because I'm weird, and I smell bad sometimes, and I don't know fancy people rules. If I do this, I'm going to teach you real things, true things, even if they're hard. Is that okay? Isabella considered this. Then she nodded, and her hand reached out to touch Luz's face, a gesture so tender, so full of longing, that Diego had to look away. Okay, Luz said softly. Okay, little Bella. I'll try. She stood and faced Diego, and he saw her transform in real time. The vulnerable girl disappeared, replaced by a negotiator. Street rules applied now. 1,000 reais a week, she said. Cash. Plus food, real food, not just rice and beans. And I want access to books. Real textbooks, not garbage I find. Done, Diego said immediately. Plus clothing, medical care, and proper shelter. No shelters, Luz said quickly. They're dangerous. I'll keep my spot. A drainage pipe. Is mine, she said firmly. My terms or no deal. They stared at each other, a billionaire and a child, both stubborn, both protecting something precious. Fine, Diego said. Your terms. But you report to my house every day at 4 p.m. Carlos will pick you up wherever you want. And Luz? If you hurt my daughter in any way. You'll destroy me, I know, Luz finished tiredly. Rich people always say that. But Senhor, your daughter's already hurt. I can't make it worse. I can only try to make it better. It was the truth, plain and unvarnished. Diego found himself nodding. Tomorrow, he said. 4 p.m. Carlos will be at Praca di Acer. I'll be there, Luz promised. She looked at Isabella one more time. See you tomorrow, Bella. We'll learn about fractals. They're going to blow your mind. Then she was gone, melting into the Sao Paulo morning with her box of treasures, leaving Diego and Isabella standing in stunned silence. Papa, Isabella whispered, the first word she'd spoken to him in 5 years. Obrigada. Thank you. Diego's eyes burned. He pulled his daughter close, breathing in her shampoo, feeling her small heartbeat against his ribs. De nada, meu amor, he whispered back. You're welcome, my love. What he'd just done was insane. Reckless. His lawyers would have aneurysms. His social circle would be scandalized. He'd just hired a homeless child to teach his daughter, violated probably 100 laws, and invited chaos into their carefully controlled life. And he didn't care. For the first time in 5 years, his daughter had hope in her eyes. That was worth any risk. The Valente mansion sat in Jardim Europa like a fortress of glass and white marble, all clean lines and calculated beauty. Diego had designed it himself after Maria's death, a monument to control, where every surface could be sanitized, every corner monitored, every risk managed. The irony wasn't lost on him as Carlos pulled through the gates at 3:47 p.m. the next day with Luz in the back seat. She looked even smaller inside the Bentley, pressed against the leather like she might contaminate it. Diego watched through his office window as she emerged, clutching her cardboard box like a shield. She'd attempted to clean up, her face was scrubbed pink, her hair wrestled into submission with that same piece of twine, but the yellow dress was beyond redemption, and her bare feet left faint prints on his pristine driveway. His head of household, Senhora Oliveira, appeared at his elbow, her disapproval radiating like heat. Senhor Valente, this is irregular. That's one word for it, Diego murmured. The child is filthy. Possibly diseased. I must protest. Your protest is noted. Have Rosa prepare the guest bathroom. Luz will need to shower and change before the session. Change into what, Senhor? We don't keep street urchin clothing on hand. Diego turned to face his longtime employee. Senhora Oliveira had been with the family for 15 years, had held Isabella as a baby, had wept at Maria's funeral. Her concern came from love, he knew. But it was also wrapped in the kind of class prejudice that Diego had suddenly run out of patience for. Find something of Isabella's that fits. And Senhora? That tone doesn't work for me anymore. She stiffened. Of course, Senhor. My apologies. After she left, Diego remained at the window, watching Luz stand frozen in his driveway. She was scanning everything, the security cameras, the exits, the angles. Survival instincts didn't shut off just because you'd been invited inside the castle. Isabella burst from the house before Diego could move, her school uniform abandoned for jeans and a pink t-shirt. She skidded to a stop in front of Luz, bouncing on her toes, her smile so wide it hurt to look at. Oi, Bella, Luz said, and Diego could hear the warmth even through the glass. You ready to learn about fractals? Isabella nodded enthusiastically, then grabbed Luz's free hand and started pulling her toward the house. Luz resisted, just slightly, her eyes darting back to Carlos as if confirming her escape route. Diego met them at the door. Welcome, he said, trying for warmth and landing somewhere near awkward formality. Please, come in. Luz stepped over the threshold like she was entering a cathedral, reverent and terrified. Her eyes went wide as they adjusted to the soaring foyer, the chandelier that cost more than most cars, the marble floors that reflected light like water. Santos, she breathed. You really are stupid rich. Luz, Diego warned, but Isabella was already giggling, a sound he'd forgotten she could make. Sorry, Luz said, not sounding sorry at all. But seriously, you could house like 20 families in here. 43, actually, Diego said dryly. My architects were very efficient. Luz blinked at him, surprised. Then a grin cracked her guarded face. Did you just make a joke? I've been known to. Hey. She adjusted her box. Okay, so where are we doing this? Please don't say some creepy formal dining room with paintings of dead people watching. I was thinking the library, Diego offered. No dead people, I promise. You have a library? Like, a whole room just for books? The wonder in her voice twisted something in Diego's chest. Yes. Would you like to see it? Luz's eyes went liquid with longing. Yes.
Please.
He led them through the house, acutely aware of how Luz catalogued everything. The art she'd never recognize as priceless, the furniture she didn't know was designer, the casual wealth that was just background noise to Diego but must have felt like violence to her. Isabella walked between them, still holding Luz's hand, glancing back and forth like she was afraid one of them might disappear. The library occupied the entire west wing, floor-to-ceiling shelves, a rolling ladder, leather chairs positioned near windows that overlooked the garden. Afternoon light slanted through, turning dust motes into gold. It was Diego's favorite room, the one place that still felt like Maria. Luz stopped breathing. This is... She set down her box carefully, then walked forward like a sleepwalker. Her fingers traced the spines, reading titles in Portuguese, English, Spanish. This is obscene. This is... How many books? Around 8,000, Diego said quietly. My wife was a professor. Literature. She collected them. Was. Luz turned, and he saw her quick mind making connections. The accident. Yes. Did she read them all? Most of them. She had a rule, never buy a book you don't intend to read. Luz's expression softened. She sounds like she was wonderful. She was. They stood in the golden light, an unlikely trio, the weight of loss hanging between them. Then Luz cleared her throat and turned to Isabella. Okay, Bella. Before we start, your papa wants me to clean up. Something about not bringing favela germs into paradise. She said it lightly, but Diego heard the edge. The bathroom is prepared, he said. Rosa will show you. There's clothing for you as well. Suspicion flashed across Luz's face. I don't need charity clothes. Consider it a uniform. You're an employee now. I'm a contractor, she corrected. There's a difference. Fine. Contractors who smell get paid less. Isabella clapped her hand over her mouth, her eyes dancing. Luz stared at Diego, then burst out laughing, a real laugh, startled and genuine. Okay. I'll shower. But I'm keeping my dress. Wouldn't dream of taking it, Diego said. Rosa appeared as if summoned, middle-aged, kind-faced, holding a stack of clothes. She looked at Luz with something that might have been sympathy, which was already better than Senhora Oliveira's barely concealed horror. Come on, querida, Rosa said gently. Let's get you comfortable. Luz followed, but not before shooting Diego a look that said she was only tolerating this for Isabella's sake. When they disappeared, Diego turned to find his daughter watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What? He asked. She mimed writing, and Diego pulled out his phone, opening a notes app. Isabella typed slowly, carefully, you like her. I don't know her, Diego protested. But you like her. Isabella typed again, adding a smiley face. Diego couldn't argue. There was something about Luz, her fierce intelligence, her refusal to be diminished, the way she carried her dignity like armor even as the world tried to strip it away. She reminded him of Maria, actually. That same fire. She's brave, he finally said. And she made you smile. That's enough for me to like her. Isabella nodded, satisfied. Then she typed, she's sad too. Like us. Out of the mouths of babes. Or rather, out of the phones of traumatized 9-year-olds. Yes, Diego agreed quietly. Like us. 20 minutes later, Luz returned transformed. Rosa had found jeans that actually fit, a simple white t-shirt, and sandals that were only slightly too big. Luz's hair, freed from twine and properly washed, fell in loose black curls to her shoulders. She looked uncomfortable in the clean clothes, like she was wearing someone else's skin. But her eyes, those ancient, knowing eyes, were the same. Better? She asked defensively. You look nice, Diego said simply. I look like a fake version of myself, Luz muttered. But whatever. Bella, you ready? Isabella practically vibrated with excitement. For the next hour, Diego watched from the doorway as Luz taught. She pulled books from shelves with reverent hands, spread her salvaged materials across the antique table, and built a world of mathematics and wonder. Fractals in ferns. Fibonacci in sunflowers. The golden ratio in the Parthenon and in Bella's own face. See. Luz traced the spiral she'd drawn. Nature keeps using the same patterns because they work. They're efficient. Beautiful and efficient, that's the universe's whole deal. Isabella was drawing her own spirals, concentrating so hard her tongue poked out slightly. When she finished, she held it up, and Luz clapped. Perfect. See, you're a natural. Math isn't about memorizing, Bella. It's about seeing patterns. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. The whole world becomes this amazing puzzle. Where did you learn to teach like this? Diego asked, unable to stay silent. Luz glanced at him, surprised he was still there. I don't know. When I find something cool, I want to share it. Is that weird? No, Diego said. That's called passion. It's what the best teachers have. She ducked her head, embarrassed by the compliment. Yeah, well, the best teachers usually have, like, degrees and shoes and homes. Minor details, Diego said, making Isabella giggle again. They worked until the light began to fade. Luz taught binary code using stones. She explained prime numbers as the loners of mathematics, only divisible by themselves and one, like they're too cool for factors. She made Isabella laugh, made her think, made her forget to be silent and scared. At one point, Isabella actually asked a question out loud, why? And Luz answered without making a big deal of it, as if children speaking was the most normal thing in the world. Diego had to step out into the hallway, overwhelmed. When the session ended, Luz packed up her materials slowly, clearly reluctant to leave the library's warmth. Isabella clung to her, and Luz crouched down to eye level again. I'll be back tomorrow, she promised. We'll learn about tessellations. You're going to love it. Isabella hugged her, fierce and desperate, and Luz hugged back with surprising tenderness for someone so young and so hardened. Carlos will drive you back, Diego said. To Praca da Sé is fine. I can walk from there. Luz, it's getting dark. I know how to handle dark, she said quietly. But thanks. They walked to the car together, Isabella between them again. At the Bentley, Luz paused. Senhor Valente, can I ask you something? Diego. Please. And yes. Why are you really doing this? There's got to be 100 tutors you could hire. Real ones. Why me? Diego looked at his daughter, then back at Luz. Because in 5 years, you're the only person who made her want to try. That's not something you can buy, Luz. That's not something you can fake. You have a gift. I have street smarts and stolen books, Luz corrected. That's not the same as a gift. Isn't it? She studied him for a long moment. You're weird for a rich guy. I get that a lot lately. Luz smiled, that real smile that transformed her whole face. Okay. I'll be back tomorrow. Same time. Same time. She climbed into the Bentley, and Diego watched it pull away, carrying a homeless girl in borrowed clothes back to her drainage pipe. The absurdity should have struck him. Instead, all he felt was hope. Isabella tugged his hand. When he looked down, she was typing on his phone again. Can we keep her? She's not a pet, querida, Diego said gently. I know. But can we keep her anyway? Diego didn't have an answer. He just pulled his daughter close and watched the taillights disappear into São Paulo's growing dark. Have you ever met someone who changed everything in just a single encounter? Someone who walked into your life and suddenly nothing was the same? I'd love to hear your story. Share it in the comments below. Before we continue, don't forget to smash that like button if you're enjoying what you're seeing. Your support means the world to me and helps this channel grow. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss any of our uploads. We're building an amazing community here, and I don't want you to miss out on what's coming. And please, share this video with your friends, family, or anyone who would love this type of content. The more people we can bring into this community, the better it gets for everyone. Your engagement in the comments has been incredible, and I love reading every single one of your thoughts and theories. Keep them coming. Now, let's go in depth into the story. 3 weeks passed like a fever dream. Luz came every day at 4 p.m., and every day she taught Isabella something that had nothing to do with the elite school's curriculum and everything to do with falling in love with learning. They studied chaos theory using a garden hose. They explored topology by turning Rosa's donuts into mathematical objects. They learned about encryption by writing secret messages to each other that made Isabella grin with conspiratorial joy. And slowly, impossibly, Isabella began to speak. At first, just single words. Yes. No. Cool. Then phrases, show me how. I don't understand. Can we do that again? By the third week, she was having actual conversations with Luz, her voice rusty but determined, like an engine remembering how to turn over. Diego watched it happen with a mixture of joy and jealousy he wasn't proud of. His daughter was coming back to life, but she was doing it for Luz, not for him. Every word she spoke to the homeless girl was a reminder of the years she'd stayed silent with him. But he couldn't resent it. Not when Isabella's eyes had light in them again. Not when she laughed at dinner, telling him about the day's lessons in halting sentences he treasured like gold. Luz, for her part, remained wary. She accepted her weekly pay with the gravity of someone who understood exactly what money meant when you had none. She wore the clothes Rosa provided but kept her yellow dress folded in her box like a talisman. She was polite to the staff, brilliant with Isabella, and carefully distant from Diego himself. Until the fourth Tuesday, when everything changed. Diego was in his office when he heard the shouting. Male voices, aggressive and loud, coming from the front of the house. He was already moving when he heard Luz scream, not in fear, but in fury. He reached the foyer to find chaos. 3 men in security uniforms from Academia Santissima had Luz backed against the wall. One was holding her box, rifling through it while she struggled against another's grip. The third was speaking rapid-fire Portuguese with Senhora Oliveira, who looked vindicated and terrified in equal measure. Caught stealing from the school library, the guard was saying. Books, tablets, valuable materials. We tracked her here. Lies. Luz was snarling, fighting like a cat. I didn't steal anything. Those are mine, I found them. Found them in our dumpster. You mean, that's still theft? Stop. Diego's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Stop right now. Everyone froze. The guards turned, recognition and unease flashing across their faces. Diego Valente was their employer's employer, the man who could end careers with a phone call. Senhor Valente, the first guard started, we didn't mean to cause trouble at your home, but this girl. This girl is my employee, Diego said coldly. Release her. Now. The guard holding Luz let go slowly. She stumbled forward, her eyes wild, her breath coming in gasps. Diego could see terror underneath the rage, not of the guards, but of losing everything she'd found here. There's been a misunderstanding, Diego continued. Luz has my permission to use whatever materials she needs for teaching. If some came from the school, I'll compensate them immediately. Senhor, with respect, several teachers reported seeing her take items. Did anyone actually see her steal? Diego interrupted. Or did they see a homeless girl and assume? Silence. The guards exchanged looks. I see, Diego said quietly. You came to my home, manhandled a child under my protection, based on assumptions. I believe we're done here. Carlos will see you out. And gentlemen, if I hear that anyone at Academia Santissima has harassed Luz again, I'll be very interested in reviewing the school's funding. All of it. Do we understand each other? The threat hung in the air like a blade. The guards mumbled apologies and retreated. Senhora Oliveira looked like she wanted to say something but thought better of it. When they were gone, Diego turned to Luz. She was shaking, her arms wrapped around herself. Her earlier fury collapsed into something smaller and more vulnerable. Tears streaked her face, angry tears, frightened tears, tears she was furiously trying to hide. Luz, Diego started. I didn't steal, she said, her voice breaking. I swear, Senhor Valente, I didn't. I found those books in their recycling. They were throwing them away. How is that stealing? How is taking trash stealing? It's not, Diego said gently. They were wrong. They always think I'm stealing, Luz continued, the words tumbling out like a dam breaking. Every time. Every store, every building, every space I exist in. They see my face, my clothes, and they know. Street rat. Thief. Trash. And maybe I am. Maybe I'm exactly what they think, but those books were garbage to them and they were everything to me. Luz, stop. And now I've ruined this too. She was crying harder now, her chest heaving. This perfect thing with Bella and the library and feeling like I was worth something for 3 hours a day, and I've ruined it because I'm exactly what Senhora Oliveira thinks I am. Lose. Diego did something he hadn't done in 5 years. He reached out and pulled the crying child into a hug. She stiffened, shocked. Then she collapsed against him, sobbing into his expensive shirt, her thin shoulders shaking. She was so small. God, she was just a child, a brilliant, brave, terrified child who'd been fighting alone for so long. You didn't ruin anything, Diego said quietly, one hand awkwardly patting her back. You're not trash. You're not a thief. You're a teacher, and a damn good one. Those men were wrong. Do you understand me? They're always wrong, Luz whispered against his chest. But they're always right too. Because I don't belong here. I don't belong anywhere. You belong here, Diego heard himself say. With Isabella. With us. Luz pulled back, wiping her face with angry swipes. You're just saying that because I'm useful. Because I fix your daughter. I'm saying it because it's true. Nothing's true with rich people, Luz said bitterly. Everything's temporary. Everything's conditional. As soon as I'm not useful anymore. Papa. They both turned. Isabella stood at the top of the stairs, her face pale. She'd heard everything. She came down slowly, her eyes fixed on Luz. When she reached them, she took Luz's hand. Don't go, Isabella said clearly, each word an effort but determined. Please don't go. You're my friend. My only friend. And I need you. Luz's face crumpled. Bella. I need you, Isabella repeated, and then she was crying too, and Diego found himself standing in his foyer with 2 crying children, his heart breaking and mending simultaneously. Okay, Luz whispered. Okay, Paquina. I won't go. I promise. They stood there, the 3 of them, a broken family that didn't make sense on paper but somehow fit together perfectly. And Diego made a decision that would shock everyone. Luz, he said. What if you didn't have to leave at all? She looked up at him, confused. What if you stayed here? Lived here? Not as an employee. As family. Silence. Complete, ringing silence. You're insane, Luz finally said. Probably, Diego agreed. But I'm also serious. You live in a drainage pipe, Luz. You're 12 years old. That's not acceptable. It's my choice. It's not a choice, it's survival. And you shouldn't have to survive anymore. You should get to live. I can't, Luz said desperately. I can't be someone's charity case, someone's project. You'd be Isabella's sister, Diego interrupted. And my daughter. If you want. No expectations. No conditions. Just family. Luz stared at him like he'd grown a second head. You don't even know me. I know enough. I'm street trash. I have no documents, no history, nothing. You can't just adopt random homeless kids. Actually, I can. I have very good lawyers. This is crazy, Luz said, but her voice was wavering. Yes, Diego agreed. Completely crazy. But also right. Tell me it's not right. Luz looked at Isabella, who was nodding so hard she looked like a bobblehead. Then she looked at Diego, and he saw the war in her eyes, the desperate want fighting the survival instinct that said nothing this good could be real. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this? Because 3 weeks ago, my daughter was a ghost, Diego said. And you brought her back to life. Because you deserve more than drainage pipes and stolen books. Because I look at you and see someone Maria would have loved. Because it's right. Pick whichever reason works for you. All of them, Luz said, her voice breaking. All of them work. So yes, Luz whispered. Yes, I'll stay. I'll try. But if I screw this up. You won't, Isabella said firmly, and squeezed her hand. Diego felt something in his chest that he thought had died with Maria. Hope. Real, terrifying, beautiful hope. Okay then, he said, his voice rough. Welcome home, Luz. She laughed and cried simultaneously, and Isabella hugged her, and Diego stood there, wondering how his carefully controlled life had just been completely upended by a barefoot girl with a box of treasures. And for the first time in 5 years, he was grateful for chaos. The first night was the hardest. Rosa had prepared one of the guest rooms, soft sheets that probably cost more than Luz had seen in her lifetime, a private bathroom with marble fixtures, a closet already filling with new clothes. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Luz stood in the doorway at 10 p.m., still clutching her cardboard box, unable to cross the threshold. Too soft? Diego asked from behind her. She jumped. What? The bed. Is it too soft? Some people prefer firm mattresses. I prefer concrete, Luz said honestly. Or cardboard. Things that don't make you forget where you really belong. Diego leaned against the doorframe, careful to keep distance between them. 3 weeks had taught him that Luz spooked easily when cornered, needed space to breathe. She was like a feral cat learning to trust. Any sudden movement could break the spell. You belong here now, he said quietly. That's not a temporary truth, Luz. You understand that? No, she said simply. I don't. Because people like me don't get this. We don't get rescued. We don't get families. We survive until we don't, and that's the whole story. Then we're writing a new story. Stories aren't real, Senhor Valente. Diego, he corrected for the 100th time. And some stories are. Maria used to say that the best ones always feel impossible until they happen. Luz finally looked at him, really looked. You miss her. Every second. Every second, he agreed. Bella too. You see her mom in her face. Every time I look at her. And now you're trying to fix both of you by saving me. Luz's voice wasn't accusatory, just stating facts. That's what this is, right? You couldn't save your wife, so you saved the broken homeless girl instead. Diego considered lying, then decided Luz deserved better. Maybe partly. But also, I look at you and see someone who deserves a chance. Can both things be true? Luz was quiet for a long moment. Then, I don't know how to be someone's daughter. I barely remember being anyone's daughter. I don't know how to be a father to anyone but Isabella, Diego admitted. So we'll figure it out together. Deal? She studied his face like she was looking for the trap, the trick, the inevitable betrayal. Diego waited. He was learning that Luz needed time to process, to calculate, to convince herself. Okay, she finally said. Deal. But I'm keeping my box. I wouldn't dream of taking it. She nodded and stepped into the room. Diego waited until she closed the door before heading to his own suite. He paused outside Isabella's room, cracking the door to check on her. She was fast asleep, her face peaceful in a way he hadn't seen in years. 2 broken children under his roof now. One learning to speak again, one learning to trust again. God help him. Morning arrived with chaos. Diego was already in his home office at 6 a.m., old habits, when he heard the scream. He was running before conscious thought caught up, taking stairs 3 at a time, his heart in his throat. He found Luz in the kitchen, backed against the counter, staring at Senhora Oliveira with wide eyes. The older woman was holding up a school uniform. Blazer, skirt, pristine white blouse. I was just trying to help her get ready, Senhora Oliveira was saying. I'm not wearing that, Luz said, her voice shaking. I'm not going to that school. But Senhor Valente enrolled you. He what? Luz spun to face Diego as he entered. You enrolled me at Academia Santissima? The school that tried to have me arrested yesterday. Diego held up his hands in surrender. I thought you'd want an education. I want an education, not a torture chamber. Luz was breathing fast, panic rising. Those kids, those teachers, they hate me. They think I'm trash. You can't make me go there. Luz, they'll treat you differently now. You're a Valente. I'm not a Valente. The words exploded out of her. I'm Luz from nowhere, and putting me in a rich kid costume doesn't change that. They'll know. They'll always know. And they'll destroy me. Isabella appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She took one look at the scene and immediately went to Luz, taking her hand. Don't make her go, Papa, Isabella said quietly. Please. Diego looked between them, his daughter pleading, Luz trembling, Senhora Oliveira confused. He'd made a mistake. In his eagerness to give Luz everything, he'd forgotten to ask what she actually wanted. Okay, he said. Okay, no Academia Santissima. But Luz, you need formal education. I'll teach myself, Luz said desperately. Like I've been doing. I don't need. What about online school? Isabella interrupted. Remote classes. She could do them here, at home, with me. Diego blinked. When had his 9-year-old become so practical? Online school, he repeated slowly. That could work. Luz was still breathing hard, but some of the panic was receding. I could control the environment. Turn off the camera if I need to. Learn at my own pace. And I could help, Isabella added. We could do it together. Luz looked at her, then at Diego. You'd let me do that? Not make me perform for your rich friends at their rich school. I'm not trying to make you perform, Luz. I'm trying to give you options. Options, she repeated, like testing the word. I've never had those before. You have them now, Diego said firmly. So let's start over. What do you want? Luz took a shaky breath. Online classes. Real textbooks. Maybe someday I could take the university entrance exams. Get into a real program. Engineering. Diego guessed. Mathematics. Astrophysics, Luz said quietly. I want to understand the universe. How it started. Why it works the way it does. I want. She trailed off, embarrassed. You want to reach the stars, Diego finished softly. Even though you've been living in the dirt. Especially because of that, Luz said. The stars don't care where you come from. They're the same for everyone. Something in Diego's chest cracked open. This brilliant child, this fierce soul, dreaming of the cosmos from a drainage pipe. Then that's what we'll do, he said. Online school now. University prep. Whatever you need to reach those stars. Luz's eyes filled with tears. Why are you so nice to me? Because you deserve it, Diego said simply. And because I think Maria would have loved you. The name hung in the air. Luz wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Tell me about her, she asked. Your wife. Bella's May. Diego glanced at Isabella, who nodded encouragement. He'd barely spoken about Maria in 5 years, afraid that words would somehow diminish her memory. She was a literature professor, he began. Taught at USP. She could quote poetry in 6 languages and still swear like a sailor when she was angry. She believed books could change the world. She believed education was a human right, not a privilege. She used to volunteer at favela schools on weekends, teaching kids to read. She would have liked me, Luz said with wonder. She would have adored you, Diego corrected. She would have seen what I see, someone brilliant and brave and deserving of every opportunity. I miss her, Isabella said softly. Every day. Me too, Querida, Diego whispered. Luz looked between them, this father and daughter bound by grief, and made a decision. She set down her defensive posture, just slightly. Okay, she said. I'll try. This family thing. This school thing. All of it. But I need you to know, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to say the wrong things and not know the rules and probably embarrass you. You couldn't embarrass me if you tried, Diego said. Challenge accepted, Luz shot back, and Isabella giggled. Senhora Oliveira, who'd been watching this entire exchange with increasing bewilderment, cleared her throat. Shall I prepare breakfast, Senhor? Please. And Senhora? Luz gets to choose her own clothes from now on. No uniforms unless she requests them. The older woman nodded stiffly and retreated. Diego knew he'd have to have a conversation with his staff about accepting Luz, but that could wait. Can I show Luz the garden? Isabella asked. Before lessons. Lessons don't start for 3 hours, Querida. I know. But Luz hasn't seen it in daylight. It's pretty. Diego looked at Luz, who shrugged. I've never had a garden. Or a yard. Or anything that wasn't concrete. Then go, Diego said. I'll have breakfast brought out. They ran off together, Isabella pulling Luz by the hand, and Diego stood alone in his kitchen, wondering how his life had become so beautifully complicated. The next 2 weeks were an education for everyone. Diego learned that Luz had nightmares, bad ones that left her screaming at 3 a.m., reliving things she wouldn't talk about. He learned that she hoarded food in her room, unable to trust that meals would keep coming. He learned that she flinched at sudden movements, watched exits obsessively, and carried a small knife she'd stolen years ago for protection. He learned that healing wasn't linear, that trauma lived in the body even when the mind tried to move forward. But he also learned that Luz laughed at terrible jokes, that she sang while she studied, off-key and enthusiastic, that she had opinions about everything from architecture to politics to the best flavor of ice cream. He learned that she was fiercely protective of Isabella, that she cried during sad movies, that she was teaching herself guitar from YouTube videos. He learned that underneath the defensive armor was a child who desperately wanted to be loved but was terrified to admit it. Isabella bloomed under Luz's presence. She was speaking in full sentences now, telling stories about school, making jokes. She and Luz were inseparable, studying together, cooking with Rosa, badly, building elaborate blanket forts in the library. The house felt alive again in a way it hadn't since Maria died. But not everyone was happy about the changes. Diego's mother arrived unannounced on a Thursday afternoon, sweeping through the door in Chanel and judgment. Cristina Valente was 70 and formidable, a society matriarch who'd never quite forgiven Diego for marrying a middle-class professor instead of someone from their circle. "Diego," she said, kissing the air near his cheeks. "We need to talk." He knew that tone. About the street urchin you've installed in my granddaughter's home." Diego's jaw tightened. "Her name is Luz. And this is my home, May, not yours. Don't be pedantic. The entire society is talking. Christina's son has gone insane, they say. Adopted some favela rat. What's next? Turning the mansion into a shelter. Would that be so terrible?" His mother's expression hardened. "You're being ridiculous. This girl, this Luz, where did she come from? What's her history? Her bloodline? You can't just import random children and expect them to fit into our world. She's not an import. She's a child who needed help." "She's a liability," Cristina snapped. "Mark my words, Diego. Girls like that bring trouble. Bad blood will show eventually. And when it does, when she steals from you or harms Isabella or causes some scandal." "Enough." Diego's voice was ice. "You will not speak about Luz that way. Not in this house. Not anywhere. I'm your mother. And she's my daughter now. So you have a choice, May. Accept her with respect, or don't come back." Christina's eyes went wide with shock. In 42 years, Diego had never challenged her so directly. "You would choose a stranger over your own family?" she asked. "I would choose love over prejudice," Diego corrected. "Every single time." They stared at each other, a lifetime of complicated history crackling between them. Then Cristina picked up her purse. "You'll regret this," she said coldly. "When that girl shows her true colors, don't come crying to me." "I won't need to. Because you're wrong about her." His mother left without another word. Diego stood in the foyer, shaking with anger and adrenaline, and didn't notice Luz until she spoke. "She's right, you know." He spun. Luz was sitting on the stairs, halfway up, her face carefully neutral. How much had she heard? "She's not right," Diego said firmly. "Bad blood will show eventually," Luz quoted. "That's what rich people always believe. That poverty is genetic. That we're fundamentally broken." Luz. And maybe she's right. Maybe I am broken. Maybe whatever made my May abandon me is in my DNA, and one day I'll destroy everything you've given me. Stop. Diego crossed to the stairs, sitting below her so they were eye level. "Listen to me very carefully. You are not broken. You are not bad blood. You are a survivor with trauma, and there's a difference. What your mother did, what life did to you, that's not your fault. And it doesn't define you. Doesn't it?" Luz's voice cracked. "I've lied, Diego. I've stolen. I've done things to survive that would horrify you. Your mother's right to be afraid of me. I'm not afraid of you. I'm proud of you." "How? How can you be proud of?" "Because you survived," Diego interrupted. "Because you didn't let the world make you cruel. Because even when you had nothing, you were teaching children mathematics on sidewalks. Because when my daughter needed someone, you showed up. That's who you are, Luz. Not your worst moments. Not your survival choices. But the core of you, that brilliant, kind, fierce person. That's what I see. Luz was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I want to believe you. Then believe me. But what if I mess up? What if I prove your mother right? Then we'll deal with it together, Diego said. That's what families do. They mess up and forgive and keep trying. You're not alone anymore, Luz. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. She launched herself at him, hugging him so tightly he almost toppled backward. Diego caught her, held her, this fierce child who'd had to be so strong for so long. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder, for not giving up on me. Never, Diego promised. Not ever. They sat there on the stairs until Isabella found them and joined the embrace, 3 people learning how to be a family. But Diego's mother had been right about one thing. Trouble was coming. It arrived 2 weeks later in the form of a social worker and 2 police officers. Diego was in a business meeting when Senhora Oliveira interrupted, her face pale. Senhor, there are authorities here. They're asking about Luz. His blood turned to ice. What kind of authorities? Child Protective Services. And police. Diego excused himself and found them in his foyer, a tired-looking woman in her 50s with a clipboard, and 2 officers who looked uncomfortable in his wealthy home. Senhor Valente, the woman asked. I'm Maria Santos from Child Services. We've received a complaint regarding a minor living in this home, a girl named Luz, no last name, approximately 12 years old. Yes, Diego said carefully. She's been living here for about a month. What's this about? We need to verify her welfare and your legal custody status, Maria Santos said. Do you have documentation? Adoption papers? Guardianship assignment? Diego's stomach sank. In his eagerness to help Luz, he'd started the legal process but nothing was finalized yet. It was all still in motion with his lawyers. The adoption is in progress, he said. My legal team is handling it. So currently, you have no legal right to this child, one of the officers said. It wasn't a question. I have her consent. She chose to be here. She's 12, Maria Santos said gently but firmly. Children can't legally consent to living situations. Without proper documentation, this is technically child harboring. We're going to need to take her into protective custody until this is sorted out. No. Diego's voice was sharp. Absolutely not. Senhor Valente, I understand you mean well, but protocol. Protocol put her in a drainage pipe. Diego snapped. Your system failed this child for years. She was homeless, starving, alone. And now that she's safe, you want to drag her back into it. We want to ensure proper oversight. What's happening? Luz's voice, small and terrified, cut through the argument. She stood at the top of the stairs with Isabella, both girls' faces pale. Luz, it's okay, Diego started. You're here for me, Luz said, looking at the social worker. To take me away. No one's taking you anywhere, Diego said firmly. Actually, Senhor, Maria Santos said apologetically, until the legal situation is resolved, I'm required to place her in temporary foster care. No. Isabella screamed. You can't take her. She's my sister. Please, Luz said, and Diego turned to see her coming down the stairs slowly, her face resigned. Please don't make this harder. I knew this couldn't last. I knew it was temporary. It's not temporary, Diego said desperately. Luz, I promise you. You can't promise that, Luz said softly. You're not God. You're just a rich man who tried to help. And I'm grateful. But they're right. You don't have legal claim to me. I'm nobody's daughter. Not really. You're my daughter, Diego said, his voice breaking. Legally or not. You belong here. Maria Santos was looking between them with something like sympathy. Senhor Valente, if you expedite the adoption process, if you can show clear intent and proper documentation, I can place Luz in temporary kinship care under your supervision. But I need something official. Today. Diego's mind raced. My lawyer. I need to call my lawyer right now. You have 1 hour, Maria Santos said. After that, I have to follow protocol. Diego pulled out his phone, already dialing. As he walked away to have a frantic conversation with his legal team, he heard Isabella talking to Luz. Don't be scared, his daughter was saying. Papa will fix it. He always fixes things. Some things can't be fixed, Pequena, Luz whispered back. But Diego was going to prove her wrong even if it meant calling in every favor, spending every real, moving heaven and earth. He wasn't losing another daughter. Not now. Not ever. When have you had to fight for something, or someone, that mattered more than anything? What would you risk to protect your family? Please share your thoughts below, because sometimes these conversations remind us what we're really fighting for. The next hour was a blur of phone calls, raised voices, and legal jargon that made Diego's head spin. He paced his office like a caged animal while his lawyer, Ricardo, sharp as a blade and twice as expensive, worked miracles over the phone. The problem, Ricardo explained in clipped tones, is that you never filed for emergency guardianship. You just took in a homeless child. Which, while admirable, is legally problematic. So fix it, Diego growled. I'm trying. But the family court judge won't hear emergency petitions until tomorrow morning. The best I can do is get you temporary kinship care status, but that requires proof of existing relationship and, Diego, are you listening? Diego wasn't. He was watching through his office window as Luz sat in the garden with Isabella, both girls holding hands, both crying. The social worker waited nearby, giving them privacy but making her presence known. A countdown clock to separation. What if I can prove she's been thriving here? Diego asked suddenly. School enrollment, medical records, psychological evaluation showing improvement. Do you have those things? I can get them in the next 45 minutes. Then get them. All of them. Anything that shows this placement is in the child's best interest. Because right now, Diego, you're losing her. Those words hit like a physical blow. Losing her. Like losing Maria. Like watching life slip away and being powerless to stop it. No. Not again. Never again. Diego became a man possessed. He called Luz's online school, demanded enrollment verification and progress reports, sent immediately. He called the private physician who'd examined Luz when she first arrived, begged for a rush medical summary showing weight gain, improved health markers. He even called Dr. Cardoso, the child psychologist he tried to hire for Isabella years ago, explained the situation, and somehow convinced her to come to the house immediately for an emergency evaluation. You're asking me to do in 30 minutes what normally takes weeks, Dr. Cardoso said. I'm asking you to help me save a child, Diego corrected. Please. Something in his voice must have convinced her. I'll be there in 20 minutes. While he waited, Diego compiled everything. Bank statements showing expenses for Luz's care, photographs of her smiling with Isabella, even testimonials from Rosa and Carlos about how well she'd integrated into the household. It wasn't much. It wasn't nearly enough. But it was all he had. Dr. Cardoso arrived like a whirlwind, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and no-nonsense efficiency. Diego gave her the abbreviated version while walking her to the garden. Let me talk to her alone, Dr. Cardoso said. You'll make her nervous. She's already terrified. Then don't make it worse by hovering. Go. Let me work. Diego retreated to where Maria Santos waited, checking her watch. 40 minutes, Senhor Valente. I'm getting you everything you need. I hope so. Because that child out there? She's already given up. I can see it in her body language. She's preparing to leave. She shouldn't have to prepare for abandonment, Diego said bitterly. She's 12. I know, Maria Santos said softly. And I'm not the enemy here, Senhor. I'm trying to help. But the system has rules, and those rules exist to protect children from people with good intentions and bad outcomes. And what about children the system failed completely? Where were you when Luz was sleeping in drainage pipes? Maria Santos flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Diego shot back. But I'm trying to make it right. They stood in tense silence until Dr. Cardoso returned 30 minutes later, Luz trailing behind her looking exhausted. Isabella clung to Luz's hand like a lifeline. Well? Diego asked. Dr. Cardoso handed him a handwritten letter. My professional opinion. That child has experienced severe trauma and neglect. She also shows signs of significant healing and attachment formation in the past month. Removing her from this environment would be psychologically devastating. She needs stability, and she's found it here. Diego could have kissed her. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm also recommending ongoing therapy for her, which you'll need to provide. And for Isabella as well. This family needs professional support. Whatever it takes. Papa. Isabella's voice was small. Is Luz staying? I'm trying, querida. Maria Santos was reading Dr. Cardoso's letter, her expression thoughtful. Diego handed her the rest of his hastily compiled documentation: enrollment forms, medical reports, financial statements, character references. This is actually quite thorough, she admitted. Because I'm serious, Diego said. This isn't a whim or a charity project. Luz is my daughter. Maybe not legally yet, but in every way that matters. And I will fight for her with everything I have. Senhor Valente, Luz started, her voice breaking. No, Diego interrupted, turning to face her. You need to hear this, Luz. All of it. You think you're not worth fighting for. You think you're temporary, disposable, a burden. But you're wrong. You're brilliant and brave, and you've survived things that would have destroyed most people. You brought light back into this house. You gave Isabella her voice back. You gave me hope back. And I will not let a bureaucratic system take you away from us. Tears were streaming down Luz's face. But what if they make you? What if? Then I'll fight in court. I'll appeal. I'll make so much noise they'll have no choice but to listen. I didn't save you just to lose you, Luz. Do you understand me? He's serious, Isabella added, her voice fierce. When Papa decides something, he makes it happen. He built buildings that touch the sky. You're more important than buildings. Despite everything, Luz laughed, a wet, desperate sound. You two are insane. Completely, Diego agreed. But we're your insane family. If you want us. I want you, Luz whispered. God help me, I want this so much it terrifies me. Maria Santos cleared her throat. This is all very touching, but I still need to make a decision. Senhor Valente, the documentation helps. Dr. Cardoso's evaluation is compelling. But. Diego's heart stopped. But I need to hear from Luz herself. Not what she thinks you want to hear. The truth. She turned to the girl. Luz, do you feel safe here? Yes, Luz said immediately. Has anyone hurt you or threatened you? No. Do you want to stay? Luz looked at Diego, then at Isabella, then back to Maria Santos. More than anything. But I'm scared. Of what? Of messing this up. Of not being good enough. Of them realizing I'm not worth the trouble and sending me back to the streets. Those are valid fears, Maria Santos said gently. But they're fears, not facts. Has Senhor Valente given you any reason to believe he'd abandon you? Luz thought about it. No. Even when I've been difficult, even when his mother said terrible things about me, even when I had nightmares and broke things and didn't know how to act, he stayed patient. He stayed kind. That sounds like someone committed to you. It sounds too good to be true, Luz countered. Things like this don't happen to girls like me. Maybe they should, Maria Santos said. Maybe that's the whole point of what we're trying to do here. Make sure every child has a chance at this kind of stability. She looked at her clipboard, then at the assembled documentation, then at the strange little family standing before her. All right, she finally said. Here's what I'm going to do. Luz, you can stay here under temporary kinship care while the adoption process moves forward. But there will be conditions. Diego's knees nearly buckled with relief. Anything. Weekly check-ins with my office. Ongoing therapy for both girls. Isabella needs to continue her education. She is, Diego interrupted. Both girls are enrolled in online programs. And Luz needs proper documentation. We'll work with your lawyers to establish her legal identity. Birth certificate, social security number, everything. I don't have a birth certificate, Luz said quietly. My mother never registered me. Then we'll create one. It's not uncommon with street children. Maria Santos softened slightly. Luz, this is your chance. A real chance. Don't waste it. I won't, Luz promised. I swear I won't. And Senhor Valente, if I find out you mistreated this child in any way, if this situation becomes harmful, I will remove her so fast. Understood, Diego said. But you won't need to. Because I love her. Both of them. They're my daughters, and I will protect them with my life. The words hung in the air, stark and true. It was the first time Diego had said it out loud, that he loved Luz. But standing there, facing the possibility of losing her, he'd realized it was true. Somewhere between the sidewalk mathematics and the midnight nightmares, between the fierce intelligence and the vulnerable hope, he'd fallen in love with this brave, broken child. And she'd become his. Luz was staring at him like she'd been struck. You love me. Yes, Diego said simply. I love you, Luz. I love your brilliant mind and your terrible jokes and the way you sing off-key when you think no one's listening. I love how you protect Isabella and challenge me and refuse to let the world make you small. You're my daughter. Maybe not by blood, but by choice. And that's stronger. Luz made a sound, half sob, half laugh, and threw herself at Diego. He caught her, held her, felt her shake with the force of her crying. I love you too, she whispered against his chest. I didn't want to. I tried not to. But I do. I love you and Bella and this crazy house and even Rosa's terrible cooking. Hey! Rosa called from somewhere inside, making everyone laugh. I love having a family, Luz continued, pulling back to look at Diego's face. A real family. Not perfect, but real. And I promise I'll try so hard to be worth it. You already are, Diego said firmly. You already are worth everything, Luz. You just need to believe it. Isabella joined the embrace, and they stood there, three people who'd been broken in different ways, now holding each other together. Maria Santos watched with something that might have been tears in her professional eyes. All right, she said, her voice rough. I'll file the paperwork for temporary kinship care today. You'll hear from the court about the adoption hearing next week. In the meantime. She looked at Luz. Welcome to the system, kid. The legal side of it, anyway. Try to stay out of trouble. No promises, Luz said, grinning through her tears. After Maria Santos and the officers left, after Dr. Cardoso departed with promises to return for weekly sessions, after the crisis had passed and the adrenaline faded, the three of them sat in the garden together. That was terrifying, Luz said. That was nothing compared to what I would have done if they'd tried to take you, Diego replied. I was prepared to buy the entire child services department if necessary. That's not how government works, Papa, Isabella said seriously, making them laugh. Details. Diego waved his hand dismissively. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Luz spoke, her voice soft. What happens now? Now, Diego said, we become a family. Officially, legally, permanently. We mess up and forgive each other and learn together. We have good days and bad days. We heal. Together. Together, Luz repeated, like testing the word. I like the sound of that. Me too, Isabella agreed, leaning against Luz's shoulder. Diego looked at his two daughters, one he'd raised from birth, one he'd found on a sidewalk, and felt something he hadn't felt since Maria died. Complete. His family was different now. Cobbled together from loss and chance and desperate hope. But it was his, and it was real, and it was worth every fight. Okay, Luz said suddenly, sitting up straight. If we're really doing this family thing, I need to establish some ground rules. Rules? Diego raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Rule 1. No more surprise enrollments in anything without asking me first. Fair. Rule 2. I get to keep teaching Bella, even when she has official teachers. Because our lessons are better. Agreed. Rule 3. Sometimes I'm going to need space. To process, to breathe, to remember where I came from so I don't forget who I am. And you can't take that personally. Diego sobered. I understand. And Luz? You can add one more rule. What? Rule 4. You never have to earn your place here. You never have to prove you're worth keeping. You just have to exist, and be yourself, and let yourself be loved. Can you do that? Luz's eyes filled with tears again. I can try. That's all I ask. Group hug. Isabella announced, and they all laughed as she pulled them together. Diego held his daughters close and thought about Maria. She would have loved this chaos. Would have adored Luz's fire and brilliance. Would have been so proud of Isabella's strength. We're going to be okay, he told Maria silently. All of us. I promise. And for the first time in 5 years, he believed it. That night, after dinner, which Luz and Isabella attempted to cook and which resulted in ordering pizza, after showers and pajamas and the comfortable routine of becoming a family, Diego found Luz standing in the library. She was looking at Maria's books, her fingers trailing over the spines. Can't sleep? Diego asked quietly. Luz shook her head. Too much in my brain. Today was a lot. Yes, it was. You really meant it? What you said? About loving me? Every word. She was quiet for a long moment. My May didn't love me. I think she tried, at first. But I was too much work, too much trouble. So she left me at a bus station when I was 9 with 20 reais and said she'd be right back. I waited for 2 days before I understood she wasn't coming. Diego's heart broke. Luz. I'm not telling you for pity, she interrupted. I'm telling you so you understand. I don't know how to trust this. Any of this. Because everyone leaves eventually. Not everyone, Diego said. I didn't leave. Even when it was hard, even when you pushed back, even when my mother told me I was insane. I stayed. Why? Because you're worth staying for, Diego said simply. And because I know what it's like to lose people you love. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone, least of all a child who's already survived so much. Luz turned to face him, her young face old with experience. What if I can't be fixed? What if I'm always broken? Then we'll be broken together, Diego said. Because I'm broken too, Luz. We all are. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need to be fixed. Maybe we just need to be loved, exactly as we are. That's very philosophical for a billionaire real estate developer, Luz said, but she was smiling. I contain multitudes, Diego replied, making her laugh. She moved closer, hesitant, then hugged him, quick and fierce. Thank you, she whispered. For today. For fighting for me. For loving me even though I'm difficult and scared and complicated. Thank you for letting me, Diego whispered back. For trusting me enough to stay. They stood there in Maria's library, surrounded by stories of other people's lives, writing their own story of loss and hope and second chances. And Diego knew, with absolute certainty, that he'd do it all again. Every fight. Every risk. Every moment of terror. Because Luz was his daughter now. And family was worth everything. 6 months later, Diego stood in the same family court where he'd once signed Maria's death certificate. But this time he was signing something that meant life. Adoption papers that would make Luz legally, permanently, irrevocably his daughter. The courtroom was small, informal. Nothing like the grand spaces where Diego usually conducted business. But it was filled with people who mattered. Isabella in a new dress, practically vibrating with excitement. Rosa, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Carlos, standing at attention like this was the most important duty he'd ever performed. Dr. Cardoso, who'd become a fixture in their lives, smiling warmly. Even Maria Santos had come, her professional mask cracked by genuine happiness. And Luz. Luz stood beside him in jeans and a t-shirt she'd chosen herself, refusing the formal dress Rosa had suggested, looking terrified and hopeful in equal measure. Her hair was longer now, healthier, pulled back in a braid that Isabella had woven that morning. She'd gained weight, lost the hollow-cheeked look of starvation. But more than the physical changes, it was her eyes that were different. They were still old, still knowing, but now they held something they hadn't before. Hope. Judge Patricia Almeida, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and kind eyes, smiled at them from her bench. Well, she said, this is one of my favorite parts of the job. After reviewing all the documentation, the home studies, the psychological evaluations, and speaking with everyone involved, I'm pleased to say that this adoption is approved. Luz's knees buckled slightly. Diego steadied her with a hand on her shoulder. Luz Maria Valente, the judge continued, and Luz gasped softly at hearing her new name for the first time officially spoken. Do you understand that this adoption means Diego Valente will be your legal father in all ways? That you will have all the rights and responsibilities of his daughter? Yes, Your Honor, Luz said, her voice shaking. I understand. And do you consent to this adoption? Because while you're young, your voice matters here. This has to be what you want. Luz looked at Diego, then at Isabella, then back at the judge. It's what I want more than anything. I want to be a Valente. I want to be their daughter and sister. I want to belong somewhere. To someone. You do belong, the judge said gently. And now it's official. Senhor Valente, do you swear to provide for this child, to protect her, to support her education and well-being, and to love her as your own? I do, Diego said, his voice thick with emotion. With everything I have. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Sao Paulo, I declare this adoption final and binding. Luz Maria Valente, welcome to your forever family. The gavel came down with a sound like thunder, and Luz burst into tears. Not the scared, desperate tears Diego had seen so many times. These were different. These were joy and relief and the overwhelming realization that she was safe. Permanently safe. No one could take her away now. No one could send her back to the streets. She had a last name, a family, a home. She was no longer nobody's child. Isabella was already running to her, crashing into Luz with a hug that nearly toppled them both. You're my sister. Really my sister. Forever. Forever, Luz agreed, laughing and crying simultaneously. You're stuck with me now, Pequena. Good, Isabella said fiercely. I choose stuck with you. Diego pulled them both into his arms, his own eyes burning. My daughters, he said softly. Both of you. My beautiful, brave daughters. Rosa was openly sobbing now. Carlos was suspiciously clearing his throat. Dr. Cardoso was beaming. Maria Santos approached, official to the end, but her eyes were warm. Congratulations, Familia Valente, she said. Luz, you've come a long way from that drainage pipe. We all have, Luz said, looking at Diego. We've all come a long way. After the ceremony, after the photographs and the congratulations and the paperwork was finally, officially signed, they went to lunch at a churrascaria, Luz's choice. She developed a passion for Brazilian barbecue that made Rosa laugh every time. I'm making up for lost meals, Luz explained, loading her plate. I calculated that I probably missed about 4,380 meals while I was homeless. I've got catching up to do. At this rate, you'll catch up by next Tuesday, Diego observed dryly, making Isabella giggle. Mock me all you want, Luz said through a mouthful of picanha. I'm officially your daughter now. You're stuck with my terrible eating habits. I suppose I am, Diego agreed, but he was smiling. They ate and laughed and celebrated, and Diego watched his daughters with a fullness in his chest that felt like healing. Isabella was chattering about her online classes, about the friends she was making in virtual study groups. She was considering returning to in-person school next year, maybe a different one, somewhere she could start fresh. Luz was talking about her university entrance exam prep, about her dreams of studying astrophysics at USP, about a paper she was writing on orbital mechanics that her online teacher said was graduate-level work from a 13-year-old, which is frankly terrifying. They were thriving. Both of them. Growing and learning and becoming themselves. Papa, Isabella said suddenly, can we tell them now? Diego raised an eyebrow. Tell who what? The thing we planned. The surprise for Luz. Luz's head snapped up. Surprise? I don't like surprises. You'll like this one, Isabella promised, practically bouncing in her seat. Diego sighed dramatically. I suppose we should tell her before she has a panic attack. He turned to Luz. We've made some arrangements for your education. Luz's eyes narrowed suspiciously. What kind of arrangements? The kind where I contacted several universities and arranged for you to audit undergraduate physics courses starting next semester. Silence. Complete, ringing silence. You, what? Luz finally managed. You're too advanced for normal high school curriculum, Diego explained. Dr. Cardoso and your teachers all agree. So I made some calls. You'll continue your online high school for the diploma, but 3 days a week, you'll attend actual university lectures. Physics, mathematics, astronomy, whatever you want. Luz was staring at him like he'd spoken in ancient Greek. That's not possible. I'm 13. Universities don't let 13-year-olds. They do when a billionaire makes a very generous donation to their astronomy department, Diego said. And when said 13-year-old submits a paper on orbital mechanics that makes professors question their career choices. You submitted my paper. Luz's voice was climbing. Without asking. Yes. And they want to meet you. The head of the astrophysics department called you a once-in-a-generation mind. Luz looked like she might faint. This is insane. You're insane. I can't just. I'm not ready for university. According to everyone I've consulted, you're more than ready, Diego said gently. Luz, you taught yourself advanced mathematics from garbage textbooks while living in a drainage pipe. Imagine what you could do with actual resources, actual mentors, actual opportunities. But what if I fail? What if I'm not as smart as everyone thinks? Then you try again, Isabella said simply. That's what you taught me. Remember? When I was scared to speak again, you said fear was just data, not a decision. This is the same thing. Luz laughed shakily. Using my own wisdom against me. Clever, Pequena. I learned from the best, Isabella said with a grin. Luz looked at Diego, her eyes swimming with emotion. Why do you keep doing this? Giving me things I don't deserve. You deserve everything, Diego corrected. And I'm not giving you anything, Luz. I'm just removing obstacles. You're the one with the brilliant mind. You're the one who does the work. I just make sure you have the chance to do it. Still, Luz whispered. It's more than anyone's ever done for me. Get used to it, Diego said. You're a Valente now. We take care of our own. Forever, Isabella added, taking Luz's hand. Forever, Luz agreed, squeezing back. That evening, they returned to the mansion, no longer just Diego's house, but their home. Luz immediately disappeared to her room, and Diego found her an hour later sitting on her bed, surrounded by acceptance letters and course catalogs. Overwhelmed? He asked from the doorway. Completely, Luz admitted. 6 months ago I was stealing bread from trash cans. Now I'm being invited to audit quantum mechanics lectures. How is that my life? Because you're extraordinary, Diego said, sitting beside her. And because you never gave up, even when giving up would have been easier. Luz leaned against his shoulder, a gesture that had become natural over the months. I'm scared, she admitted. What if I mess this up? What if I'm not good enough? Then you'll learn and grow and try again, Diego said. That's what life is, Luz. A series of attempts. Some work, some don't. But you keep trying. Is that what you did? After Maria died. It was the first time Luz had called her Maria instead of your wife or Bella's mom. Diego felt the shift, the acceptance, the way Luz was making space for his late wife in her understanding of their family. I tried to, Diego said honestly. I didn't do very well at first. I just shut down, focused on work, avoided feeling anything. It wasn't until you showed up that I remembered how to actually live. Because of Bella talking. Because of you both, Diego corrected. Because you reminded me that broken things can heal. That families can be rebuilt. That love doesn't run out just because you've lost someone. You can love again, differently, and it doesn't dishonor what came before. Luz was quiet for a moment. Do you think Maria would have liked me? I think she would have adored you, Diego said. She believed education was a human right. She fought for kids like you her whole career. And she had a soft spot for stubborn, brilliant people who challenged her. He smiled. You would have driven each other crazy and loved every minute of it. I wish I could have met her. Me too. But she's here, in a way. In the books she collected. In the lessons she taught Isabella. In the values she instilled in me. You're learning from her, even now. That's a nice thought, Luz said softly. They sat in comfortable silence until Isabella appeared in the doorway, looking hesitant. Can I come in? Of course, Luz said, making room on the bed. Isabella climbed up between them, and for a moment, the three of them just existed together, a family that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. I have something for you, Isabella said to Luz, pulling out a small wrapped package. An adoption day present. Bella, you didn't have to. I wanted to open it. Luz unwrapped it carefully to find a framed photograph. It showed the three of them in the library, taken a few weeks ago by Rosa. Diego was helping Luz with something on his tablet while Isabella leaned against Luz's other side, all of them smiling, looking like what they were, family. But what made Luz's breath catch was what Isabella had written on the frame in careful script, Familia Eneri Sang. Ia Scola. Ia More. Family isn't blood. It's choice. It's love. Bella, Luz breathed, tears spilling over. It's true, Isabella said. We chose each other. That makes us more family than blood ever could. Luz pulled her sister into a fierce hug. Thank you. For everything. For saving me. You saved me first, Isabella whispered back. You taught me how to talk again. How to be brave. How to live. I think we saved each other, Luz said, looking at Diego. All three of us. Diego wrapped his arms around both his daughters, holding them close. Agreed. We're a team now. The Valente team. The weird, broken, somehow functional Valente team, Luz amended. The best kind, Diego agreed. What does family mean to you? Is it blood? Is it choice? Or is it something else entirely? Drop your answer below. I love hearing different perspectives on what makes us belong to each other. Later that night, after Isabella had gone to bed and the house had quieted, Diego found Luz standing in the garden, looking up at the stars. Can't sleep? He asked, joining her. Too happy, Luz said, and laughed at the absurdity of the statement. Is that weird? Being too happy to sleep? Not weird at all. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up, Luz admitted. That this is all a dream, and I'll be back in the drainage pipe, cold and hungry and alone. It's not a dream, Diego said firmly. You're here. You're home. You're mine. Yours, Luz repeated, like testing the weight of the word. I'm someone's daughter. I have a papa and a sister and a room and a name. Luz Maria Valente. She turned to Diego, her face illuminated by starlight. Do you know what my name means? My full name. Light, Diego said. Luz means light. And Maria means wished-for child, Luz said softly. I looked it up when you told me we were adding it as my middle name. You named me Light and wished-for child. Because that's what you are, Diego said simply. You brought light back into our darkness. And you were wished for, Luz. Maybe not by the mother who should have loved you, but by us. By me and Isabella. We wished for you even before we knew you existed. Luz was crying again, the good kind of tears, the healing kind. How do you always know the right thing to say? I don't, Diego admitted. I'm making this up as I go. But I mean every word. I love you, Papa, Luz said, using the word naturally now, without hesitation. I love this weird, impossible family we've become. I love you too, fill her, Diego replied, pulling her into a hug. My daughter. My brilliant, brave, impossible daughter. They stood there under the Sao Paulo stars, and Diego thought about how life had brought them to this moment. How a homeless girl teaching mathematics on a sidewalk had changed everything. How brokenness could lead to healing. How love could multiply instead of divide. He thought about Maria, and how she would have loved this ending, the professor who believed in education saving them all through a child who taught herself from garbage. What are you thinking about? Luz asked. How everything worked out exactly the way it was supposed to, Diego said. How losing Maria brought me to you. How your survival brought Isabella her voice back. How we're all exactly where we need to be. That's very philosophical, Luz teased. Are you sure you're a ruthless billionaire and not a poet? I contain multitudes, Diego said again, making her laugh. Yes, Luz agreed, looking up at the stars she dreamed of studying from the darkness of a drainage pipe. I think we all do. 5 years later. The auditorium at the University of Sao Paulo was packed for the graduation ceremony. Diego sat in the front row between Isabella, now 14 and flourishing in her return to in-person school, and Rosa, who'd refused to miss this moment. There she is. Isabella hissed, pointing. Luz walked across the stage at 18 years old, cap and gown looking strange on someone Diego still sometimes saw as that scared 13-year-old in a yellow dress. But she wasn't scared anymore. She was confident, brilliant, ready to take on the world. She'd just become the youngest person in the university's history to complete dual undergraduate degrees in astrophysics and mathematics. Graduate schools across 2 continents were fighting over her. She'd published 3 papers. She'd won every award the department could give. But more than the achievements, it was the light in her eyes that mattered. The joy. The absolute certainty that she belonged exactly where she was. When they called her name, Luz Maria Valente, highest honors, Diego couldn't stop the tears. His daughter. His impossible, extraordinary daughter, who'd taught herself from garbage and was now being celebrated as one of the brightest minds in her field. After the ceremony, Luz found them, diploma in hand, grinning so wide it looked like her face might split. "I did it," she said, slightly awed. "I actually did it." "You did it," Diego agreed, pulling her into a hug. "I'm so proud of you, fill her." "We all are," Isabella added, joining the embrace. "My genius sister." "Our genius sister," Rosa corrected, dabbing her eyes. Luz laughed, holding them all close. "I couldn't have done it without you. Any of you. You know that, right?" "We helped," Diego acknowledged. "But the brilliance was always yours, Luz. We just made sure you had the chance to use it." "Still," Luz said, pulling back to look at him seriously. "Everything I am, everything I've become, it started that day on the sidewalk. When you saw me teaching Bella and decided I was worth saving." "You were always worth saving," Diego said. "I just recognized what was already there." "That's a nice way to rewrite history," Luz teased. "But we both know I was a mess." "You were surviving," Diego corrected. "There's a difference." "And now I'm thriving," Luz said, looking at her diploma. "Because of you. Because you gave me a family when I had nothing. Because you fought for me when the system tried to take me away. Because you loved me even when I was too scared to love you back." "Always," Diego said simply. "That's what parents do." "The best ones," Luz agreed. "And you're the best, Papa. You and Bella and this crazy family we built." "Built together," Isabella emphasized. "We're a team, remember?" "The Valente team," Luz said, grinning. "Weird, broken, and somehow functional." "The best kind," they said together, and burst out laughing. As they walked through the university campus together, Diego looked at his daughters and marveled at how far they'd all come. Isabella, who'd found her voice again. Luz, who'd found her place in the world. And himself, who'd learned that healing was possible, that love could grow in the spaces left by loss, that families could be chosen as well as born. "So," Diego said casually, "have you decided which graduate program you're accepting?" Luz's eyes lit up. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. MIT offered me a full ride for their astrophysics PhD program. It's one of the best in the world." "MIT," Diego repeated, his chest tight. "That's in America." "I know," Luz said quietly, watching his face. "It's far. Really far. But Papa, it's my dream program. The professors there are doing exactly the research I want to do. They're studying exoplanets, searching for habitable worlds, looking for life beyond Earth." Diego forced himself to smile. "Then you should accept it." "Really?" Luz looked surprised. "I thought you'd try to convince me to stay at USP." "I want you to reach the stars," Diego said, his voice rough. "Even if it means letting you go." Luz threw her arms around him. "You're not letting me go, Papa. You're launching me into orbit. There's a difference." "Poetic," Diego managed, holding her tight. "I learned from the best," Luz whispered. "And hey, Boston's only 11 hours by plane. I'll visit on holidays. Video call every week. You'll get sick of me." "Never," Diego said. "But Luz? Make sure you come back sometimes. Brazil needs minds like yours too." "I will," Luz promised. "This is my home. You're my family. No matter where my research takes me, I'll always come back to where I belong." "To where you belong," Diego repeated, and finally understood what Maria had tried to tell him years ago, that love wasn't about holding on, but about giving wings. He'd given Luz wings. And now she was going to fly. That night, the 3 of them sat in the library, Maria's library, surrounded by books and memories and the comfortable silence of family. "Papa?" Isabella asked suddenly. Do you ever regret it? Taking in Luz that day? Never, Diego said immediately. Not once. Best decision I ever made. Even though I was difficult? Luz asked. Even though I had nightmares and pushed back and made everything complicated? Especially because of that, Diego said. Easy doesn't mean meaningful, Luz. You were complicated because you'd survived impossible things. And watching you heal, watching you grow, watching you become yourself, that's been the greatest privilege of my life. Mine too, Isabella agreed. You're the best sister I could have asked for. Even though I'm leaving for MIT. Luz's voice was small. Even then, Isabella said firmly. Distance doesn't change family. You taught me that. Remember when you said we were connected by choice, not geography? That's still true. Luz wiped her eyes. When did you get so wise, Pequena? I learned from my genius sister, Isabella said with a grin. They sat together until the stars came out, visible through the library's tall windows. Luz pressed her face to the glass, looking up at the cosmos she'd spent her life studying. Thank you, she said softly, not turning around. For everything. For seeing me when I was invisible. For fighting for me when I couldn't fight for myself. For teaching me that I was worth more than survival. For showing me what love actually looks like. Thank you for letting us, Diego replied. For trusting us enough to stay. For bringing light back into this house. For being exactly who you are. Who am I? Luz asked, finally turning to face them. You're Luz Maria Valente, Isabella said. Daughter, sister, genius, survivor, dreamer. You're the girl who taught herself from garbage and is going to change the world. You're family. I'm family, Luz repeated, the word settling into her bones like truth. I'm finally, really, permanently family. Forever, Diego confirmed. Forever, they said together, and it sounded like a promise, like a prayer, like the best kind of ending that was really just the beginning of something beautiful. Outside, the Sao Paulo stars shone down on the Valente mansion, on the family that shouldn't have worked but did, on the homeless girl who'd found her home and the broken father who'd learned to love again and the silent daughter who'd found her voice. And somewhere, Diego liked to think, Maria was smiling. Because this was exactly the kind of impossible, beautiful story she'd always loved best. The kind where love wins. The kind where broken things heal. The kind where families are built from hope and choice and fierce, unconditional love. The kind where everyone gets to reach the stars. This story began with a billionaire seeing a homeless girl teaching his daughter on a sidewalk. It ends with that girl graduating university with highest honors, preparing to pursue her dreams at MIT, surrounded by the family who chose her and fought for her and loved her into wholeness. Sometimes the most extraordinary transformations begin with the simplest acts of seeing, really seeing, another human being's worth. Diego saw Luz when the world looked through her. And in that seeing, in that choosing, in that persistent, fierce love, they all found healing. What's your takeaway from this story? Have you ever been seen by someone when you felt invisible, or have you been the one to see potential in someone others overlooked? Share your story below, because these connections, these moments of recognition, they change everything. Thanks for watching till the end. We know you loved this story, and there are many more thrilling ones waiting for you. Just click on the video on your screen to dive into the next chapter.